When we think of Tony Stark, we picture that glowing arc reactor in his chest. That shining thing has been in all of our dreams, hasn't it? This reactor isn't just some cool add-on for visual effect. We all know that. But how did this reactor evolve from the very beginning to today? Here's the story of the technology that forms the heart of the MCU. Palladium Arc Reactor Mark I. Survival. Tony Stark achieved the impossible in a cave with nothing but scrap parts. When I say impossible, his only problem wasn't being in a cave with scrap parts. There was shrapnel moving toward his heart, and a miracle happened in that cave. With Jensen's help, he designed an arc reactor. And congratulations, our first arc reactor was born. But this first reactor was actually a miniature version of the massive reactor that powered the Stark Industries factory. It had massive energy output per second. Let me explain it this way. Powerful enough to keep a human heart running for 50 years. But here's the real question. What happens when you corner a genius like Tony Stark? This first arc reactor could power the Iron Man armor for 50 minutes. At first, this wasn't a problem for Tony because it was enough for him to escape the cave and get out. Plus, while designing the arc reactor, he had to hide it from his captors. While Tony's kidnappers thought he was making a missile, he was inventing his ticket home. You know what they say, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. They gave Tony shrapnel, and he made history's most powerful weapon. The escape was successful, but everything wasn't over. We have a problem. Everything had just begun. Palladium Arc Reactor Mark II. The real Iron Man is born. Our genius billionaire had returned home. But here's the thing. This guy is a master of problems. He made history again in his garage. He designed an arc reactor for Mark II. Now we've entered the miniaturization era. The arc reactor was now smaller, more efficient, more powerful. The first arc reactor was an escape ticket, but this Mark II reactor was a system in itself. Now the armor could fly, shoot beams, and destroy tanks. I can't forget Tony Stark's first flight into the sky. This was the moment when he embraced a new identity. But like every hero who rises to the sky must fall, would Tony also have a price to pay? From rags to riches, they say. From scrap parts to billion-dollar technology. But wealth doesn't always bring happiness. Mark II turned Tony into a hero, but it also started a countdown. Palladium Arc Reactor Mark III. Toxic success. The problems of geniuses like Tony Stark never end, because their problems push them to the next level. And that's exactly what happened. The new arc reactor was poisoning Tony Stark. Yes, the Mark III reactor might have been more powerful, but this power had seeped into Stark's bloodstream. Tony Stark's neck started turning purple. His body began to collapse. And every time he went on a mission, even though Tony returned victorious, his body was failing. What would you do? Would you save the world or yourself? Tony Stark is a man who doesn't share his problems. That's why he told no one, because the world had to be saved, and he was the only one who could do it. The show must go on. The show had to continue. Tony Stark was dying every night, waking up as Iron Man every morning. To be honest, Tony wasn't a selfish billionaire anymore. He was truly a hero. Let me sum up this situation. It's a double-edged sword. The reactor was giving him power, but also taking his life. Admit it, in this part of the movie, we held our breath and said, how is Tony going to survive? The answer was a secret buried 40 years ago. New Energy Arc Reactor Mark I Father's Gift. Tony, you are my greatest creation. Howard Stark's message, left years after his death, saved his son's life. The miniature model of the old Stark Expo was actually a blueprint for a new element. If your father gave you life after his death, how would you feel? When he saw his father's message, I said, like father, like son. So that's what it means to be a Stark. Tony wasted no time and started his show in his basement. He managed to create the element his father had dreamed of 40 years ago. Now our new arc reactor was producing unlimited energy. Better yet, it was clean and safe. You know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This new reactor was the herald of the Avengers' birth. At this point, I ask you, is being powerful enough for a hero? If our hero is Tony Stark, of course not. There were things spinning in Tony's mind, things that the reactor couldn't solve. New Energy Arc Reactor Mark II. the Iron Legion era. Remember this scene. In Iron Man 3, they had blown up Tony's house, but it wasn't enough to stop him. The Mark II reactor was so powerful that it could power not just one suit, but an army. The Iron Legion, 42 different Iron Man armors, each designed for different tasks. Each had different features. Some carried heavy weapons, some were optimized for speed, some could work underwater. There were 42 armors in his garage, but Tony still couldn't sleep at night. Why? Let me explain this situation to you. These 42 armors were actually the result of an obsession. Tony Stark wanted to keep Pepper safe at all times. He thought 42 armors could protect a superhero's girlfriend. Not just Pepper, but the reality of not being able to solve any problem turned him into an obsessive man. And Ultron proved him right. Then Hulk went crazy. It was time for Tony to produce a new reactor in his garage. Palladium Arc Reactor Mark III, Hulkbuster's heart. Sleep tight, big guy. When Hulk lost control, a normal Iron Man suit wasn't enough. Who has the power to handle this giant? One of my favorite armors is coming. The Hulkbuster armor. Tony's biggest, most powerful, most savage creation yet. And it needed a special reactor to run it. Palladium returned because the Mark III reactor could power a massive armor strong enough to fight Hulk. A question here. If you had to fight your best friend, would you hurt him or risk yourself? Let's continue. I'm fascinated by this scene. These two giants destroyed buildings, cars flew, but in the end, Tony Stark won. Because the fight was actually to keep someone alive, to keep Hulk alive. This reactor wasn't just about power, it was about control. If you have the power to stop Hulk, what can't you stop? You know Tony now, he needs problems to advance. And here's the new problem. Thanos' arrival. No reactor would be enough to prepare him until he made the nanotechnology revolution. New Energy Arc Reactor 5. The nanotechnology revolution. In Infinity War, the glowing light in Tony's chest was no longer just an energy source. It was like a hive containing nanoparticles. All he had to do was snap his fingers. He became Iron Man in seconds. He reached out his arm. When Cull Obsidian's giant axe came, the nanobots made a shield. When Ebony Maw threw him into space, the nanobots became a spacesuit. This reactor was the answer to Tony's biggest fear. What if I'm not ready next time? Now he was always ready. The reactor was no longer in his chest, it was everywhere in his body. The line between Tony and machine had blurred. But even on Titan, it wasn't enough against Thanos. Tony was lost in space. And when he returned, he realized something. Defeating Thanos would require a greater sacrifice. The next part is even more exciting. I couldn't fit everything into one video, so I'll see you in part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss it.